Hey everyone, we are back with another agent interview to dig into some real telesales numbers, real agent journeys, and get some insights from agents that are in the trenches, making this business work every single day. And, we're doing this series because every agent journey is different, and every agent has different approaches to this business. And that's no different than who we're going to have on today. So today we're going to hear from an agent that's been with us for a while and consistently produces over $25,000 of final expense production every single month over the phone. So let's bring him on. So today we have Bear Brandt. So Bear, welcome, man. Thanks for taking the time to share your business with us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Awesome. So tell us a little about yourself. I know about you, but where are you from and what were you doing before Digital PGA?
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Montana. I moved to California 24 years ago now.
Okay.
And before digital, I was here in California, mostly working in business development and startup roles for a number of different companies in the financial industry. And then I started selling insurance face-to-face final expense right around 2017. And I was driving all over the Central Valley of California. And I think I was one of the first people to come on board when digital started their final expense phone sales.
You were. Yeah. We launched in late 2018.
Right.
And late 2018 is when I see that you came on board.
Yep. And worked pretty much every type of lead since then. I think you guys had what network of websites where people would fill out a form.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did Facebook leads and live transfers and telemarketing callbacks. And for a couple of years there, I generated all my own leads on Facebook.
I remember that.
Now I'm doing the inbound television leads. And I love them.
Yeah. So let's go over your numbers because I prepared for this call and got your production for the past 5 years since you've been with us and put a little bit of color that I know about your business. Because we've seen each other a bunch. You've attended almost all the masterminds and, been around for a while. So your first full year with us, you came at the end of 2018, but in 2019, okay, you wrote 209 policies for $174,000 of annual premium. That was your first year selling final expense over the phone. You sold final expense before this, but that was your first full year selling final expense, right?
Right.
2019? Yeah. So I noticed there you worked our outbound leads. Like you said, we had a network of websites we were generating leads on. And you also, I noticed, started self-generating leads at the end of that year. And for the next couple of years, you were generating your own leads, right? So in 2020, you wrote $139,000 of annual premium. You worked a little mix of our outbound leads plus your self-generated Facebook leads. In 2021, you caught your stride. You did $239,000 of annual premium, and that was the year we introduced TV call-in leads, and that's pretty much been your core lead moving forward. So fast forward to 2022. You went all superhuman on us and sold $396,000 of annual premium over the phone using our TV calls. And everybody, to be completely transparent, that's sold premium. That's not placed premium, right? You still have, there's still placement on top of that. So that's sold premium. And then last year, 2023, you came back down to earth and wrote, a little over $200,000 of annual premium. But you also became an RSD, which we're going to talk about, which took up a lot of your time. And for those watching, we'll get into what that is. But basically, it's someone who works with new agents one-on-one, new to telesales to get them going. We assign them to a brand new person, to an agent in the trenches, and it's completely optional. But anyway, so you've been working with new agents in 2023 as well. And this year, I looked at your numbers. You're on pace to break 300,000 this year. Yep. While still helping out in our RSD program. So I wanted to paint the picture of the journey that you've been on the 5 years that you've been here. Okay. So talk to us real quick. I don't know, you've been doing this life final expense telesales for 5 years, we're a business where a lot of agents fail out. Talk to us about kind of the benefits of even making it 5 years in the business. You got to get really comfortable on the phones by now.
Yeah, you definitely get more comfortable on the phones. But even for me, I've been doing this a long time. If I go on vacation or something like that, when you first come back, there's still a little bit of trepidation there. You have to get back in the zone and get consistent and just doing it again, right? And one good thing about the TV leads, and I'm not trying to push to use, I'm just stating facts here. Any inbound lead, you don't have to worry about the grind of the outbound. So it makes it a little bit easier on that part, right?
Yeah, is that why you choose TV leads? I mean, everyone's different, but is that one of the core reasons you specifically work TV leads?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I don't know what the return on investment looks like, or acquisition cost looks like for every different type of lead. I'm sure you have that data. But even if the acquisition cost for TV sales a little bit higher, and it can't be that much higher if it is, the not having to worry about who's going to answer the phone and dial for 200 times is that's lowers the barrier to getting started quite a bit. And I think most agents would agree with that.
No, absolutely. And we talk, and here's the thing: TV, the acquisition cost is higher than outbound, but it also requires less effort than outbound, and the intent is a lot higher. So your return on time is better than, and I think that's a good topic to get into next, but then return on investment, right? Your return on investment is going to be better with outbound for the most part.
Yeah.
But you're grinding through it. And that is if you even get an ROI, because if you don't call your leads, you're not getting an ROI, right? Here, you're getting a guaranteed person to talk to, that with a good intent, who saw a commercial, said exactly what final expense life insurance was, and now you're on the phone with them because they're interested. Like, I get that, and we're gonna talk through that because return on time is one thing I can tell that you really value, just based on on the business metrics that I'm seeing here. So, well,
Yeah.
let's
If I
yeah
can
let's
just add one little comment there on those numbers. I know there was 1 year, was 2 years ago, I put up a huge number as far as what was sold. And the next year, numbers wise, it looks like production did come down, but as far as a lot of that production was based on follow up with my existing book of business from previous years. So the net income actually was pretty good for me.
Yeah.
And one thing I tell agents, if you can, you want to spend as much money on leads as make as many sales as you can when you're getting started, because several years down the road, you're kind of building up. It's not like a term book of business, but there's still a lot of business to be there. There's a lot of business there from your existing book of business. That's essentially free money because you're not paying for those leads, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you have rewrites. I'm sure you get those all the time now. People
rewrites, add-ons, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Add-ons, and it's not. And a lot of people just contact you. You really don't have to do a lot of outreach. I mean, you should, but they'll just call you to do it.
Yep.
Right? It's not like you have to do anything. It's just part of it. You're their agent, and they have your contact information. They'll just call you, even if it's years down the line. Something happened. They had a financial hiccup and it lapsed. And they want to get it back on. They'll call you right back.
Yep.
And that's a big piece that a lot of people don't understand. So you've been in the business for 5 years. So let's talk about. I want to talk about that. Are your months 13 plus renewals, like those small 5 to 8% renewals, are those adding up much for you after 5 years?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And you kind of don't really notice it at first, but then all of a sudden, like, oh, okay, I had $300 of renewals this month. Well, that pays for my electricity bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of slowly builds up. And you don't really notice it, but when you go through your bank statements, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
That's nice to have that. It'll
Yeah.
make your life a lot easier, quite frankly.
Yeah. Because I mean, we get compared a lot to the Medicare business where they're paid a lot less first year, but they get those renewals year after year. And what a lot of agents don't factor in is your book of business and the people who call you back, those rewrites where you get another first year commission, right? From somebody who calls you back on top of those renewals. They're small, but they do add up after years. So, do you do anything to work your book of business at all?
I yes, it's so two things that I've been doing. One, I pay a lot of money for a text message platform because you have to be so careful with the TCPA rules around text messaging. But once you get that squared away, it's a very effective way. Just send out a text message blast maybe once every 6 months to your existing book. Say, hey, I'm here, it's Bear, just checking in, blah, blah, blah. And that's very effective. Once you have an established book of business, and then I do send out now a welcome packet. We have an agent here that has a service that does that. It's fantastic, and that helps both with the callbacks for your existing book, and also I haven't been doing it long enough, but I really feel like it helps the persistency.
Mailing out the welcome packet.
Yeah, if that first draft goes through, that's really, really good, right? For businesses falls off, it's usually that initial draft. If that doesn't go through, then you might be kind of toast on that client. But getting that first draft to go through is important.
Absolutely. And by the way, if anybody's interested in using that service, it's mailmyfinalexpenseclient.com. Anybody's welcome to use it. You don't have to be a digital BJ. So yeah, a lot of agents are using that and it helps a lot. And, to your point, you get somebody who makes their initial premium payment, that's the good first step. And it's a great milestone. For us, the next milestone is after month 3. Once they make their first 3 payments, we know there's a high chance that they're going to get to at least the 12 months. Right. That's what we found in our data, at least. So a lot of agents place a lot of effort in the first 3 months of keeping that business on the books because of that. So yeah. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So we talked about this just briefly. So you work TV leads. We talked about why you work TV leads, right? You can just kind of show up and take calls, kind of gets that call reluctance out of the way, the intent's higher. How much do you spend on TV calls every month?
I spend at least $8,500 a month, which sounds pretty insane, I guess. I'm used to it.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, that is a lot, right? So, but let's work through that. So, what is your net income? Just ballpark. You don't have to be specific here, but ballpark net income after those lead costs, after that, 8,400-ish that you said, advances, all that stuff. Like what goes out of your bank account is 8,400-ish. What comes into your bank account?
Yeah, it's right around 12 to 14,000 a month.
Okay.
Depending,
so that
how much
12 to 14,000 a month net profits after lead costs.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And so you're doing this from home, waiting for people to call you and talking to prospects with high intent.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, like you said, they'll call you crazy. But cash flow wise, you're netting around 2.5 to 1 ROI. That's real ROI, right? Money in or money out versus money in, including advances, advanced caps, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is good. So, I mean, how are you able to wrap your mind around spending so much on leads every month? I mean, I know you have, I know it's cash flowing well from you, but at the beginning, like how are you able to wrap your mind around that? Because a lot of agents have trouble with that.
Yeah. I guess I just slowly eased my way into it, right?
Yeah.
If you're working over the phone, look, the fact of the matter is you are going to spend more money on leads than if you're doing face-to-face sales, okay? They just
for sure
slowly ramped up to doing that. And one thing I do, and I know not everyone can do this, but I'll buy at least 100 leads at a time. And if you guys have a lead sale, I'll buy more than that, right? Because when you're
Yep.
working in volume, if you save $10 a lead, that's a lot of money,
Yep.
right? So I do that to keep the lead cost down as much as possible. But more importantly, if you have 10 leads in your lead queue and you take 6 or 7 phone calls and haven't made a sale, you start to pucker a little bit and tense up a little bit and stress out a little bit. And I'm sure that comes across when you're talking to a client. Whereas if you have 100 leads there and, 6 or 7 of them are not a sale for whatever reason, you're not even really thinking about it. And if you're halfway decent as sales and kind of just know a little bit about final expense, if you take 100 leads, I guarantee you will get your money back, like, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing it long enough so I know I'm going to make money, period. But if you just try to do that with 10 leads, then you can be really stressed out. So you have to have enough at-bats there to kind of even out the ebbs and flows. And then that's what I do, and I find it helps a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, it's hard for agents to wrap their mind around spending $8,400 a month. But you, like you said, you started off smaller and then you worked your way up to that amount to be comfortable. So
Yep.
Not suggesting right off the bat doing that. And, but when you look at that, it's called $8,400 a month in spend, but you're profiting $12,000 to $14,000 ish a month. It's not so bad. It's
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a return on time thing, because you can profit 12 to 14,000 and spend half as much that you do, right? And profit the same amount, but put in all this extra grind time, right? And exactly. And it's a return on time play. It's something that's not really talked about a lot. When you have, like all the major call centers out there, like a Select Quote or anybody like that, like they work on razor thin margins, right? They're looking like if they can just get a 1.08 to 1 ROI, they're profitable because they do it at scale. And so they can pay more for a lead and an acquisition than everybody else, but they understand that, that it works with volume. You're doing volume with, with what you're like, you're submitting over 25 grand a month, and you're profiting, 12 to 14 grand a month, but you're doing that with volume. It takes that money to make that money. And agents don't need to spend that amount to make that. It's just your way of going into business. And look, I'll ask you this, you're not the best closer at digital BGA.
No.
I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but you're not. But you make it work. You're in the top net earners, among the top net earners at digital BGA, because you understand it's a business, and if you just consistently do this over and over, you're getting better every single day, right? Your closing rate's going up every single day. It's good, but I'm just saying it's not the best. But you're a student of the business, right?
Yeah, what I tell people, if I can do this, you can do this too. Because I'm terrible at sales. I'm not a salesperson, nothing like that. I will also say that if anything you can do to increase your closing percentage, and I've really worked on that. And if you look at my numbers, like for the past,
they've gone up, man.
It's
impressive how much it's gone up.
Okay,
yeah.
So there are things you can do to get better, even if you're not a natural. And the more time you put into that, you're going to see a big payoff. Right.
I mean, you've gone so far, if I remember correctly, might have been a year or two ago, to hire outside coaches for like tonality and or something along those lines. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember that?
Yeah, and it was helpful too,
Yeah.
right? There's and I can share names or whatever, but there's people out there, you pay them some money, and it's not a lot, but one guy was the guy that I worked with is actually an actual trained professional opera singer who also sells SaaS software over the phone, right? And
Uh-huh.
there's little things like that, and how to say and what to say. It all helps.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. You may not be the strongest salesperson, but you get better over time because you get all those reps in. And if you're a student of the business, right, you're attending all our masterminds, you're hiring these outside coaches, you're probably consuming training outside as well to build up what you're doing.
Yep.
And it all matters because in the end of grand scheme of things, you're an independent life insurance agent. You can do whatever you want. You can pull training and say whatever you want. Um, and that's really cool, right? Because everybody has a different journey here. You can pull from wherever you'd like, and you're building up yourself, even though you proclaim yourself as not a great salesperson, but your sales numbers are looking really good recently. Um, and that's the thing. A lot of agents come into this business and they just talk themselves out of, they think they're not good at sales, that they can't be in sales. They look at a script and they can't deliver it, but it could take some time, and you don't need to be great at sales because I'll bet your biggest strength isn't sales. What would you say your biggest strength is in this business?
Being persistent and
Yeah,
just moving
I
forward.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think of you as well. If I were to say that, I mean, you're really strong in your product knowledge and field underwriting and all that as well, right? And that came with over time. I see you answering questions all the time, like just these niche sort of things that you just know off the cuff. But
That's
yeah,
accumulated knowledge.
right, right. But consistency, and that is really key here. And you've joined our RSD program where you're mentoring newer agents to telesales, you know, and I have to ask you, what do you see as being critical, like absolutely critical for a new agent to be successful in this business?
Absolutely critical. You have to have some sort of war chest built up, whether that's savings or money that you're willing to put on the credit card. Okay. And if you've never sold life insurance, if you haven't sold life insurance very much, my belief, you got to focus 100% on this, at least for the first 6 months. Okay. That's my belief. If you're a more experienced agent, you can kind of not focus that much. If you want like a side gig, yeah, you can make that work. But if you haven't sold final expense, you got to go all in for until you know the business well enough to have it be a side gig, right? And I'm not saying you can't have another side gig to buy money for leads, but you have to be focused on this is my primary source of income, and I'm going to put in the time and the work to make it work. So it's bankroll and actual dedication to learning the craft. You have to have that, otherwise it's not going to work.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's probably one of your most frustrating things working with new agents is I would bet the people who don't commit themselves, that are like kind of just dipping their toe in the water of telesales to see if they can snipe some sales and get lucky and and build off of that. But yeah, it really does take that. And a lot of agents give it like a month or two in the business, and a lot of times that's just not enough time for agents to develop the skills to be profitable.
Yeah.
Some agents need 3, 6, 9 months before they really hit their stride in this business. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Depending on how you manage hit your stride. I mean, you should be making a little bit of money after about a month. Maybe not the money that you want to make, but I guarantee you that myself or Benjamin Euler or JD or any of the other RSDs, if you put in the effort and follow the instructions, you will make money pretty quickly. It's just won't be as much as you want to make, and then you can get better and better, and then the numbers really start to work.
Yeah. And so from the agents that you are helping out, what do you see as a commonality of the successful ones? Are they just consistent on the phones? Are they attending all the trainings? What do you see out of them? Like where you see successful agents?
That's a funny question because I can never tell. So every time someone comes on board, I'll have about an hour intro Zoom call with them. And Jeff, I can never tell who it's going to be. It's just so random, right? And the people that are successful, there's a small group of people that are just naturals at this, and they just kind of get it, right? And they get on the phones and they start making sales, and they're off and running. And making sales is the best motivator you can find. You can watch a YouTube video or motivational speaker or whatever, but making a sale is the trump card, right? Yeah. And then the other one is people who, when I go and listen to a phone call, maybe to give them some coaching, I can tell that they're actually putting in an effort to practice the script and learn it before they actually get on the phone. And I hate to even use the word script. You can't map out every single conversation, but they definitely practice and have a plan of how they want that conversation to go before they get on the phone, right? The one, and you can tell when you listen to a phone call, if someone just is looking at the piece of paper trying to say something, that can be a little rough at first. So yeah, so there's the naturals, few people are like that. And then there's the people who take the time to prepare themselves before they're actually on the phone. And those are two very good indicators of people that will get traction.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always interesting to see who makes it and who doesn't, because I'll talk to some agents here and there, and I'm like, this guy's going to be awesome. And I send him out, and he ends up failing. And then I have other people who, we don't take them at first for one reason or another. And then, okay, we'll give you a shot. Maybe they don't have the funds to do this, or maybe they have some things wrong that they couldn't get some contracts or whatnot. We give them a shot and they kill it. Yep. Right. And there's no way for any of us to know. All we can do is show them the path that other successful agents are doing and see if they can forge their own path through that path.
Yep.
So, yeah. So last question here for you. What is working really well for you in your business right now? Like, is there anything specific, something small or something big, like anything that you can think of right now off the cuff that's working really well for you right now?
Working really well for me right now.
Could be a process, something you're saying on the phone, and anything.
Sure. So just something that I do in the sales process now is the close, right? That's the end of your presentation, the close. Mm-hmm. And one thing I found that makes a really big difference is I personally give one quote. Some people give two or three or what. I do one. I don't know what's better, but I do one. And before I give the quote, I'll justify why I'm going to give them the option for the 10,000 or the 20,000 or whatever quote I'm giving them. I'm going to justify why I'm making that recommendation to the client, right? Like based on what you told me, you don't want a big fancy funeral. You just want a simple cremation because that's probably the least expensive way to do it. And if it was possible, you'd like for there to be some extra money there for your son. So based on that, my recommendation is the $10,000 option. It's this much. How does that feel to you? Right. But just justifying a little bit while you're spitting out that number, it tells the client to actually listen to them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that makes a huge difference, right? And as far as the average premium, if they want more insurance, they tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's too expensive, then we can always go down. But at least I'm not just blurting out some kind of random number based on what everybody else does. Right.
Yeah. And you asked, you don't know, like if they're spitting out one number, three different rates, or like, you don't know what works. It's really what works for you, what you're comfortable with, and what you feel confident in, right? A lot of people can't pull off one number, going through and recapping everything that they told you about their situation, why they want the coverage, and why you think this is the proper amount. Some agents will, choose three based on budget, assuming budget, which I personally am not a fan of that. But it works for some agents because they have a track to go down, right? As long as you have a strategy as you go into the close, and you deliver that strategy over and over, you're going to be able to tweak it and understand like the nuances of, of saying that and getting results from it. So, no, I like that, and I think that's really important. Tying the reason for coverage right before you give it to them, right, to the rates, because it kind of brings all that emotion back up to them. Oh yeah, this is why I'm doing it, because it's not just this transaction. I'm not calling in. Now I have the rate here. Okay, cool. And now they're thinking about their family again, because I know you asked those questions probably 5-10 minutes before, but after you've asked, health questions and gone through some information, they may have forgotten that feeling that they had when they initially called or when you asked those questions. And to kind of recap it right before you give them the rate is awesome. It's a great strategy. I know you've worked hard on your sales process. You sent me a PowerPoint of your process and how all these different responses go to all these different ways. And then, are you using that PowerPoint like when you're on calls, or is it kind of in your head now?
I always have it on my desk, but it's kind of in my head.
Yeah.
And it was more one thing, and somebody else said the same thing earlier. I don't remember who it was. Especially for the first part of the phone call, you want the prospect to talk more than you're talking, right? Mm-hmm. This is their turn to shine and their turn to feel heard, and you're processing that. And so I wanted to figure out a way where I could have that happen, because I didn't always do that. I used to talk a lot more than the prospect did, and that's never a good thing. So I organized it sort of in the little talking points in a presentation flow, so that I didn't feel locked into it. And I'm going to kill myself for saying this, but yes, you have to have a plan. You have to have a script that you're going to follow, but no phone call goes exactly the same way. And so you have to have a structured conversation. That's the point I was trying to get across. I'm not reading the script, but this is kind of the things we're going to go through. Do you know what I mean?
Whether you go through it right now or you have to circle back to it, you're going to go through it. Like you set the structure. Yeah. It depends where it takes you.
The whole point of that is just to get the prospect to talk more than you're talking, or at least as much as you're talking. And if you can have that back and forth, you're 95% of the way there. It solves so many problems as far as objections at the end and all that other kind of stuff. It really, really, if you can figure out how to do that, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Get on the same page of what they're trying to accomplish, hear them out, let them feel heard. That's all anybody in our demographic really wants. That's all any of us want, is to feel heard, listened to when we call in and we need something, and that you can get out your feelings, why you want this, all that, and somebody's repeating it back to you. They get you. Now you feel like you're on the same mission together, right, to accomplish this thing together. And that doesn't happen if you're talking. The agent, I should say, is talking the whole time about why you're great, why these features and these benefits are awesome, and why, why they should go with you, and everything that's awesome about this company, right? It's important, but it's not as effective as getting them to talk about why they want this and
talk about why they want the life insurance, not There's other stuff to talk about. You want to keep them focused on the problem at hand. And if you
Right.
figuring out how to do that, I'm still working on that. It'll make a huge difference in your business.
And guys, listen to that. Bear's been in the business for 5 years. He's still working on this. He's still finding tweaks to his business here. Okay, I think that's amazing, and I don't think learning and improving ever ends. Whether you're brand new, 5 years, 10 years into the business, it never ends. I mean, we've seen thousands of phone calls, heard thousands of phone calls, tens of thousands of phone calls, and we're still tweaking things, right?
Yeah.
It's not just, market conditions are dynamic. People respond to different things today than they did 5 years ago, right? Now they're getting way more calls than they did 5 years ago. There's a lot more scams than there were 5 years ago. So they're a little more protective of, their personal information even, right? And so you have to implement ways to change with the market conditions that are changing. And so what I'm trying to say is you're always going to be changing in this business. What you're saying today is probably not what you're going to be saying a few years from now. It'll evolve. So yeah. Awesome. Well, good stuff, Bear. I think I have so many more questions, but for the sake of time, we'll just leave it at this. This has been really insightful. I appreciate you. Am I going to see you at the Mastermind in October?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'll see you in October, and appreciate you coming on here.